Try it, and what was
the fashion?
Yeah, fashion.
There was never another question. There was never another option for me. I told my mom what college I was going to go to when I was 7.
Nice.
I saw it on TV somewhere that it was like FIT was like the best fashion school, and I was like, Mom, go there.
That's it.
And she literally patted me on the head and she's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're 7. She's like, get out of here. Go play with your friends. And my mom also.
Welcome to I lost count, so I'm not going to say any number, to the next edition of aaimba Conversations. Today we're here with Beagy Zielinski. Zielinski, yes, that's the right name. And I'm very excited to be here. I think she's a very interesting personality. And of course, today we are going to talk with her about her works that we can see in the back. Of course, her life, her uprising, where she's from, and we'll get to know her better. So, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Welcome very much. Thank you for having us. Thank you for inviting us to your humble space.
Thank you.
Very, very, very happy to be here. First question that I really like, or that I really ask everybody, is always the same. It's like, why? Why you do art? Why you started? What's your passion?
I've always been into art my whole life. It's like when I was little growing up, my mom used to always yell at me, "Get out the house, go play with your friends." And I was like, "I just want to paint, leave me alone." And so I would go to my friend's house and paint at their house and ignore them. So I was actually always really into art. And now my mom has like all of my paintings when I was younger, like hanging huge in her house. But because of work and life, career, I hadn't done it in a really long time. And then we got into quarantine. And then I said, you know what, before I get stuck in this house and go mad, I want to do something creative while I'm in the house. And then I just started painting. It was my birthday, actually. And I asked everybody to paint. That was my birthday request from everybody. Just want to paint. And so I got paint and I went crazy. And I just really fell in love with it again. And it actually puts me to sleep. It's weird, but I don't paint before midnight ever. I really don't. And so I usually start painting around midnight. I'll usually like watch a show or put some music on, and I'll start painting. And that's what relaxes me enough to go to sleep.
Nice.
This is my bedtime ritual.
Nice. So it's more. It has become more somehow of a meditative process for you. Something to calm down, to get the stress out of it.
Exactly.
Calm and relax.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's for me. It's a calming ritual. Sometimes I just have so much energy. I'm always like, this is why I don't drink coffee.
Yeah.
Like I can't afford to drink coffee, and so this is sometimes especially in quarantine when I'm not using as much energy during the day as I'm used to. And so I found that I was like up to 4 in the morning, just like, and so I needed something to just calm down. And usually, like I said, I start around midnight, and it's a really nice like. And then sometimes I'll have like things in my head, just colors I want to see on paper. No idea, just color I want on paper. I cannot sleep until it's done. And sometimes I'm sitting here and it's like it's 1 a.m. Like it's too late to paint. Like no. And then I'm like, but I can't sleep if I don't do this.
I never would have said it's too late to paint. It's the best time to paint because it's quiet, nobody's calling you, nobody's asking you to come
I
on.
think that's why I like it.
Go get a coffee, go do this, and there's another event going on over there. So you have to like relax space and relax mind. So that's my favorite time to paint.
I've also always been a night owl. So even in my work life, when I'm doing editorials, I always do mood boards in the middle of the night. That's my best, most creative time. If you ever want to ask me something creative, call me at 2 a.m. I'm awake.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's really like I've always been this night owl. My sister's also a night owl. Last night we were on the phone. It was 2 a.m. our time. Like she's still in America, so I'm like 8 hours behind she is. So it was still late her time actually. But we're both night owls, and so my most creative time, my most like awakening time is between midnight and 3.
No.
That's what that.
So you mentioned your childhood days, and you told us that your mom was like trying to get you out of the house, stop painting, and go out with your friends. So tell us first of all where your life started. Where was you born, and where did it take you?
So I was born in Connecticut in the USA,
Okay.
so 2 hours outside of New York. And we left the US when I was little. My dad's German, my mom's American,
Okay.
by way of Haiti. And we moved to Germany. And yeah, and we lived here until I was right before my 16th birthday, which sucked. As a kid, moving right for 16th, I was like, no!
Especially 16, right? Then you have to move.
All your
Get away
friends,
from-
exactly. Like that was really bad.
Yeah.
But I survived. So I moved to the States when I was 16, and then I studied over there. I owned a showroom in the U.S. I got really deep into the fashion industry and styling music videos and TV shows and lots of celebrities and things like that.
Yeah.
And that took over my time. I
Yeah.
mean, literally, I didn't even take vacation for 7 years when I was really working in fashion. And so you just kind of like are in this cycle of like working 24/7. Like in America, it's like different than like in Germany.
I
Like
get it.
really and truly working
Yeah.
24/7.
I got cousins and aunties over there,
Yeah.
so I know how things
It's
so
it's definitely a different life. Yeah, it's
I
different.
know.
And if you don't, then you're out.
Yeah.
That's that's the game.
That's the game.
Like it's different than here. Like if you don't play this 24-hour game, you just not in it.
Yeah, you know,
And
like-
so, but at the same time, because I started my career there, I didn't know any better, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved working 24 hours a day. I thought that it fed my soul. I thought that not sleeping was amazing.
yeah,
I thought that, that was what life was about.
yeah,
Hopping on a plane every 2 days and like
Yeah.
not sleeping and just running on 13-hour, 14-hour
Yeah.
shoots. I thought it was amazing. And then I came back to Germany, and everyone's like, go on vacation. I'm like, what do you do on vacation?
What is
Ew.
that?
Yeah. And I'm not even joking. Like the first few times that I had, because in Germany you have to take your vacation days. My boss was like, "You've got to take vacation,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Calm down."
Yeah, it's software boss too, because it has to give it to you. right?
Exactly. And then a few
Mhm.
friends of mine were like, "We're gonna show you
Yeah.
on vacation,"
Yeah,
and they took me to Croatia. And at first,
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my god, we're gonna sit on the beach all day. This is boring.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna plan a shoot. Forget y'all. I'm gonna call some photographers. we're gonna shoot out in Croatia." And they're like, "No, stop. Just relax." And it was really hard for me, like the first few times, to
Yeah.
relax.
I get
Like
it.
that was
I
tough.
get it.
And with practice, you learn.
Yeah, I doubt that sometimes because I work a lot too. So I'm like always in my mind, like, okay, there's this
Yeah.
to do, you gotta do this, and you gotta do that. So next question is like, you had obviously an awesome career
Mhm.
or an awesome work. So what was your point where you said, okay, I want to take that path, and
Mhm.
I decided to go for it? I mean, it's a tough business
Yeah.
that you're in. So
Yeah.
what was the point where you said to yourself, okay, I want to try it, and what was
The fashion?
the fashion?
There was
and
never
everything.
another question.
There's
There was
nothing.
never another option for me. I told my mom what college I was going to go to when I was 7.
Nice.
I saw it on TV somewhere that it was like FIT was like the best fashion
Yeah.
school, and I was like, "Mom, going there."
That's it.
And she literally patted me on the head and she's like, "You don't know what you're talking about. You're 7." She's like, "Get out of here. Go play with your friends." And my mom also wasn't in love with the idea. Like growing up, I never changed my mind. Never changed my mind. And she always was like, "I want to be a veterinarian. I want to be a lawyer. Something legitimate. And she really was not a fan of the idea. We had a lot of fights about it. Even she tried to refuse to pay for my college.
Oh.
We went through it. Long story short, I obviously made it through college
Perfect.
with the degree that I wanted.
Yeah, perfect.
I refused to apply anywhere else. I
Yeah.
literally just refused.
Yeah.
And I was like, "We're doing this.
So-
We're not
so
doing
you
anything."
applied for the first time, and
I didn't apply anywhere else.
Yeah, okay.
I just said, "This is what we're doing." And she refused. She actually refused to pay for it. She said, "I'm not doing it."
Really?
Yeah. And I said, "Well, I didn't apply anywhere else, so
Should
shut
That's
up."
it. Oh, nice. Beautiful. Parents can sometimes be so, I don't know, so forceful.
Yeah, especially Caribbean parents.
Yeah.
Caribbean parents have a very specific career idea for their kids in mind. You know, you're either an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, or you don't have a job. Like everything else doesn't exist.
I mean, in Africa it's the same. So my parents also. Like, you have to use 4 career plans. Nothing.
That's
else.
it.
Nothing else.
And nothing else is acceptable. And now I'm actually in one of the textbooks that they use at FIT to talk about the styling class. And now he's on board. Now that she sees, you know, me on TV shows and sees me in magazines and sees that I'm in these books, she's like, oh, I guess it is a little bit my
It was supposed to say somehow the same with my parents too. Like, they were scared. Like, no, don't do it. And no, why? You gotta career path. Don't take the easy route. But I did choose.
You gotta go with what your heart tells you to do. Otherwise, you're not gonna like it. 2, you're not gonna be good at it. And that's just why we have so many options out there. Why torture ourselves if we have the option and ability to actually make money doing something we love? I always said I would do what I do for free any day of the week if I didn't have rent. But I do. So I mean, I really and truly love fashion. That's what I've always loved. All of those drawings that I did when I was little, it was always about fashion. It was always about hair or the cuts, or really oddly enough, all of my sketches had this haircut when I was growing up because I wasn't allowed to cut my hair. And so I actually, all of my sketches have this exact haircut. And as soon as I was able to cut my hair, you know, after I moved out, cut it all off and you know, gave myself the haircut. But it was about expressing the things that you couldn't have.
Being yourself and trying.
Being yourself.
Being the master of your own time, being the master of your own self,
Exactly.
The path that you want to choose for yourself.
Exactly, and that was fashion for me. Fashion was for me, it was expressing another side of myself that I couldn't otherwise express, or couldn't find the words to express, or however, or felt stifled in, and I was able to express that with fashion, and I was very successful in doing that.
Nice, beautiful.
Thanks.
But you also said that. Your career path distracted you,
yes.
Or not? I won't say distracted you, I mean, because it was fun to you,
yes.
and you love doing it. So
yes.
distraction is probably the wrong word, but you didn't have the mind to paint,
yes.
or
yes.
to do artworks and to really get into it.
Yeah.
So, what was the point for you to say, okay, I want to go back to painting again, to using colors, to try and express myself?
Yeah. So the past, I would say 2 or 3 years, I've been feeling, in terms of fashion, that I'm overworked.
Okay.
Too many fashion weeks, too much flying. I've been starting to, I don't want to say fall out of love with it, but the love isn't as strong as it used to be. And I've, in an attempt to refine and reconnect with what I've always connected with, I said, okay, let's try some other things. I tried to figure out, is it Berlin? I went to Paris. I went to Paris Fashion Week, and I said, you know, is it because I'm in Berlin? Is there something in Berlin that's I'm not connecting with? Because the industry here is very different. And so I went to Paris, and I did find that spark again when I was in Paris. And where I found the spark was I was at the Comme des Garçons showroom, and anybody who knows Comme des Garçons, the brand has nothing to do with ready to wear or sellable clothing. It's couture. It's the truest form of art that has nothing to do with what you can sell or how much money you can make. It's just emotions in fabric. And that's where I connected again. And I missed that connection of just making something not to make money, making something just
out of your heart.
Out of your heart. Yeah. And it's a beautiful, beautiful feeling that I've missed. And yeah, it just made me want to paint again. And then we ended up in quarantine, which I was like, okay, I'm not going to sit in this house and not do anything with my life. So I actually just, I started painting again in the house, and with no intention of anything, just me getting my emotions out. I started posting them online, just like kind of what I was doing in quarantine. And immediately I started getting people requesting to buy them. And I was like, I guess.
I would say
if
no.
you want, I suppose so. And it's kind of grown and grown and grown out of there. Some of the pieces I won't sell because I actually want for myself.
Yeah.
I really like them.
That's nice.
And some of the pieces I will probably make into prints and then let people enjoy them.
Yeah.
I've been getting amazing emails and really touching messages from people who say that they connect with the art, which I mean, I could cry when I read them. It just is really, really beautiful. Again, it's just me making a mess with paint and having fun, and a lot of it is experimenting for me, you know, because I haven't painted in so long and there's so many new products on the market, and it's just kind of, a lot of times it's just, what would happen if I use this tool? You know, what would happen if I use this? I use a shower squeegee, and I was like, what would happen? Looks like fun. And, you know, just random experiments is a lot of what it is, and it sometimes turns out really cool, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that's weird. But
I know. But the funniest thing is that things that you sometimes find weird is the thing that other people like.
That's
wow,
true. That's true.
It's life changing.
Yeah, that's
for me,
true.
You know? I just recently had a conversation with Tamara Sandoval. I had an interview with her on the page, and she was also telling me the same things, like you just said. Like sometimes you do certain pieces and you think it's crap.
Yeah.
You think like, what the fuck have I done? And still somebody else sees it and then, oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I want to have this.
Yeah.
It's changing my life. So it's somehow, that's the weird thing about art.
That's a beautiful thing about art.
Yeah, but it's also weird somehow. I find it very strange that art can create so many emotions, so many different emotions and so many different personalities.
Yeah.
I haven't seen an art form or any human creation that can do that in the same way. So that's why I actually love it.
I love that about art. Like, you know, you can look at the same picture that I'm looking at, and then if you ask us how we interpret it, totally different.
Totally.
But both are true. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. Nothing is wrong. Like, there's no wrong answer. Like, funny enough, when I painted this, I was watching Unsolved Mysteries. And my friend saw it and he said, "This looks like a UFO." And there was an episode that I was watching that was about UFOs. So I don't know, maybe that influenced me in some way. I have no idea. But I never saw the UFO in there until he pointed it out. No. And, you know, all I saw was like the texture in it, because it has like quite a rough texture, and I did that on purpose. I'm quite a big fan of making things like 3D and textured and thick. Yeah. And, you know, so that when you look at it from the side, you can sort of see how raised it is. And that's like a huge thing for me. But it's interesting how he interpreted the UFO. That series.
It's always like that. It's just like, you can have conversations about art, and people will see different things, and then so it's beautiful. Yeah. So I would say let's go on to the second episode of this conversation. Of course, we are going to talk about her works, where you can see people behind us, and of course, we are going to see her creative space here just around the corner, and you're gonna be amazed about where she works. So stay tuned to the second episode of this conversation, and see you. Bye.
Bye.
So welcome to the second episode of this conversation. Today we are still here with Beagy, and we're going to talk with her about her works now, and she's going to explain to us her mindset, why she's doing the work, her emotions, where she's doing the work, and what calms her down. So, still welcome to this episode.
Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. So we are here to talk with you about your artworks. So first of all, let's start with this here. We talked about where we are sitting on the couch. Mm-hmm. So give us a small explanation or walk through this piece.
So this is another one of those pieces where it was like, I think like 1:30 in the morning. Yeah. And I have these weird dreams sometimes, and all it is color. Yeah. So it'll just be blocks of color in my mind, and I'll wake up thinking, I need to mix these colors. and so this is one of those dreams the night before where I had, and I was like, I just want paint red. I just want red. That's all. I just wanted different shades of red. And I was like, oh, that'd be just really... red is my favorite color, so is a very attractive color for me. I love red.
Yeah.
And so I didn't do it all day. You know, I did other things, running around, and then it was like 1:30, and I was like, yeah, but I can't go to bed unless I do this. So I painted it just red, and then I was actually using several different colors of red. You can't really see it, but it's quite bright, and then it has like these strokes of that are a little bit dark. So I've mixed a few different red shades.
So do you mix them yourself, or do you have like a red color that you use, and then you try to?
I mix everything. I will use nail polish if I find the color. I don't care what medium it is. I use everything. I have mixed nail polish and used it before, but I do tend to mix colors. I use acrylics and I also use inks. So sometimes those tones are a bit different. Yeah. Also, I have to say, I was a color specialist in my former career, and so I'm very particular when it comes to a cast and tone of color. Like I'm very, very particular about it. And so even if I buy a color and it just needs an undertone of something, I'll just mix it. It's fine. And so I just did the red. Yeah. And then of course it has to dry. So I went to bed frustrated because I needed more, but I needed to let it dry. It is what it is. Yeah. And so I went to bed.
Nothing against it. So.
Exactly. It is what it is. It is what it is. And so I went to bed, and then I didn't work on it the next day. Yeah. And I think a few days went by, and I started thinking, I wonder what would happen if I put colors into, because I was cooking and I finished my cinnamon. Yeah. And the little cinnamon shaker. I think I have it here. Here we go. Yeah. I said, what would happen if I put paint in the cinnamon shaker? And and I poured it out through the little holes. That'd be fun. And so I did it. Nice. And I did this. Okay. Again, it was just these little drops, and it was just figuring stuff out, like playing with paint. Just playing around. What would happen if, right? So I did that. I thought, interesting. Not there, but interesting. Yeah. And then a few days went by, because again, I had to let it dry. And I came back, and then I just started doing, again, while watching TV, I sometimes don't even look at my board. I just kind of, what's happening? And the white came. I said, cool. And then at some point, I said, I want to do drip. Yeah. And I used ink just to do the drip. Yeah. And did you just... I literally taped it. Okay. I literally taped it here, and I just dripped the ink up there and just let it fall. Okay. And I like the way that the ink falls. Like, because I've tried the same thing with the other version of this painting with paint and mixed and tried to thin it, and the drip is too wide for me. I personally like it when it's wetted. That's something you think about. Okay. That's nice. I think about a lot of those like weird things. Like the weird thing is, that's a detail that I wouldn't have thought about, how paint drips. Yeah. I wouldn't have never. Yeah. I'm weird. not weird. Yeah. It's more fascinating. I like that. I like the little craziness of our people. So yeah. I do a lot of those kind of things. Like so this whole thing actually started before I got my paint in collages. And I started ripping up all of my very expensive magazines and creating collages. And one of the things that I started doing after I started ripping up collages is painting on top of and underneath the collages. Yeah. And then I started trying to test out what would happen if I used lacquer on the magazine because of the texture. Because usually when you paint on the magazine paper, it soaks into it and it kind of gets ripply. Okay. And so I said, what if I lacquer it first and then paint? Like I was always doing these kind of experiments. Like, this is my lab, basically. So, where would you say does it come from? This desire for experimenting, this desire for like trying new things out. I've always been this. Maybe it's my mom, but I've always been someone who likes to experiment with things. My mom always said to me, and probably because I was like a complainer as a kid, don't say anything until you test it out. Oh, okay. And so she would always yell at me and say, like, try it first. Try it first, and then you can tell me you don't like it. Try it first. Yeah. And also in my styling career, a mentor once told me, you can make mistakes, you can style crazy things, but try it first. See how you feel about it. And see how other people feel about it. I don't really care about how anybody feels about it. I really only care about how it makes me feel, especially with my styling. because it's my expression. It's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So regardless of how anybody feels about it, I still try it.
Really? Nice.
Always. And that's why, like, a lot of times, like, on set, like, a lot of photographers want to be in the fitting room and they want to see what you're doing. And I always have said, I need time, just me and the model.
Yeah.
I need to experiment.
Yeah.
I've always experimented, and I need to just mess with things, and I need to put things together that I know won't work.
Yeah.
But I need to know, I need to see it, you know? And I've always done this. So I think that's kind of where it comes from.
Okay.
And so then I was just messing with this, and that's where this came in. So back to my collaging.
Yeah.
And so I still had a lot of collage pieces, and I started putting a bit of collage in there. And then I said, well, I'm not done. Like, sometimes I'll just look at a painting and I'm like, it's not done. Or sometimes I'll look at it and I'll say it's done, and then the next day I'll look at it again, it's not done.
No.
And I think I came back to this 2 or 3 times. I thought it was done, and then I came back and just added, even if it's like, I think this little pink thing, I think I added that in like 4 days later. I was like, it just needs a little
twist.
Yeah.
A little twist.
And so that's kind of how it happens. And I think this blue guy came in much later as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just kind of like experimenting, accidents, fun accidents. Yeah.
So it's like it's a whole bunch of process that you're going through.
A lot.
I mean, you started from wanting these bright red color to be on the canvas, and then you move from like putting some green on it, putting some ink on it. And what about this area? I mean,
so this area at first it was just white.
Yeah.
And then that was too white for me. So it was too stark against the red.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, what if I mixed in, a few magentas and the peaches and things like that. Yeah. And these all come from these dreams. Like the initial dream was the red and the green. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that would be really pretty to have this particular red with this particular green. That would be quite nice. And then if I added in this, and it just sort of like that. And then it just kind of happens. I honestly can't explain it. It's the same with my styling. People always ask me to explain how I come up to things, and I'm like,
it's just there.
It just comes out. And I use these quite a bit. They're actually just the when you open up your paint a lot, the dried bit of paint. I actually have them on almost all of my pieces. All of the collages have them, because I looked at I started collecting them at some point, and I looked at them and I was like, oh, that's like a collage. Wow. And so I just started using lacquer to attach them to different painting pieces, and they're on the boards too. Yeah. They're really everywhere. I love experimenting. I have another experimental piece under that painting. Yeah. There's another piece. Yeah, can you feel it up?
This one's not dry.
So this is another.
Whoa.
Here we go.
I'm just.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. That's part of the art. It's part of the art. So then, this is another one of those fun experiments that I did. So I realized on the floor that we're on that when I would peel up some of the bits of paint, that underneath was a little piece of art, and it was quite nice. And so I took a piece of plastic because that's what happens, and I just started while I was painting, just splashed it, and then I would just leave it and splash it and leave it, and then I just poured a bit of red paint on top of it. And that's what happened.
Nice.
And I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I might actually put it on something. Yeah. It might be a collage piece, because I can always add it with lacquer and attach it to something. Yeah. But I just thought this was like a really fun experiment.
I love your experimental behavior. I love it. It's like you're seeing, you're imagining things in things that nobody else could imagine of. So
I feel like I'm Bill Nye the Science Guy for art.
Yeah, I mean, I have these things too, but I've never found a reason to
put
use
them
it.
on there.
So I never found. I mean, I always use the colors and all the things and throw them away, right?
Never. So I don't throw anything away. I mean,
using it in your own painting is like, okay, why not? Yeah, actually, it makes sense. Why not? And why not? Why not?
Don't waste paint.
Yeah, don't waste it.
I use a lot of different things in my paint. So I use acrylics, I use inks, I use pastels, I use chalk, and I use tape.
Okay.
So tape is another tool that I love to use. I'll show you a bit. This is my fun little. I love playing with colored tape.
Yeah.
And I have more, but this is just like the few that are out here. And I just, and a lot of the paintings that I have, I'll just put a piece of tape in. And even sometimes paint over it. Sometimes I won't paint over it. Yeah. What I like about it is the texture of the gaffer. When you paint over it, it's different than a canvas.
Where do you find them anyway? I never saw
So, fun fact, Stylist use gaffer tape to tape the bottom of shoes for photo shoots.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that's why I have them. And so a lot of the stuff is kind of just like playing with things that I already own and have. And then, so the black gaffer tape was what I used for styling. And then I was in the paint shop, Brusna, recently. And then I saw pink. And I was like, oh, I love that color. It's a beautiful pink, right?
Exactly.
And then, and I really searched the world for this color.
Yeah.
Because it was very difficult to find. And also the matte texture. I really wanted this texture in this color. Yeah. So I actually searched for about 2 days. And I ended up finding it on Amazon, this color. And I have this in quite a bit of the paintings as well, and some of the collages that you'll see. Yeah. But I pretty much use everything. And here, for instance, like on the boards, I have Japanese newspaper.
Yeah, let's switch over to the board. Yeah. So continue.
I used to make boards with editorials. This is something I've been doing probably for about 10, 15 years. Yeah. I've always hung skateboards in my apartment as art. I have 9 different skateboards with art on them.
You skate yourself too?
I don't skate.
Okay.
I should learn. Right?
Yeah,
I surf, but I don't skate. I don't skate. But I just always loved the idea of a different type of a canvas, right? Okay. So I just didn't want a box. Yeah. I just wanted something else. Yeah. And so I took skateboards, and there was a company in New York when I was living there that, you know, if you give them high resolution images, and they had a program where you can design your own boards, and they print them for you, and they did a really great job. And so I started printing amazing editorials in different configurations, sort of like collaging on boards, and I had them hung all over my apartment. And so during quarantine time, again, I was really bored, and I was like, I could go back to skateboards. I could make some skateboards again. And so this was after I started the collaging, and I said, what if I collaged on skateboards instead of letting them print it? I could just do it myself. And so I bought Japanese newspaper, but the Japanese newspaper was quite yellow.
Why Japanese newspaper?
I wanted Japanese writing. At first, I actually tried to write it myself, and that was a disaster. So I said, let's not do that. I don't want to offend anybody. Lord knows what I'm writing. So let's not do that. And then I said, let me buy Japanese writing on its own. And so I bought
the best on this one, right?
Yeah. And then so I purchased Japanese newspaper, and at first it was quite yellow, so I actually bleached the newspaper first. Okay. Be careful when you do that. Yeah. The color will the color will deposit somewhere, and it deposited all over my kitchen counter. And so I put the newspaper on there. I bleached it first, and then I put it on with lacquer. But then I really wanted I wanted these 3 to be one piece. Yeah. And so I made it kind of like have to line up. Yeah. And so I would put it on there first. I put the lacquer over it, and then I cut them to separate them. Yeah. And then let it dry. Yeah. And then before that, I even had to put a whole white finish on this, because these boards, when I buy them, they're just wood. There's no finish. I still have to go over them with sandpaper and then give them one color.
So the whole process. From beginning to end.
Totally. And then I will say the hardest things about the boards is when I'm painting them is I have to establish all of the drill holes every single stroke that I do, because they get covered in paint and then you lose them, and then you'll never be able to hang them. And so this was another piece that I was a lot in experimenting with. Yeah. And so I started with the shower squeegee, and I started just kind of like putting color across them and just kind of seeing how it reacts. Seeing how the paint reacts to the wood. It's all an experiment for me. Yeah. It's just fun playing with color, right? Yeah. And so I was kind of just seeing how they worked. And I actually painted this whole thing quite differently. And there was this one corner right here, because I take pictures of it the entire time just to kind of see where I'm at. And there's one corner right here that I was particularly in love with. Yeah. And I said, I have to redo the whole thing. And so I actually repainted the entire thing over on top of what I already painted. Okay. in the theme of this one corner.
Yeah.
And it was the colors and the way that the colors were reacting to one another that attracted me to that corner.
Yeah.
And also, I also realized after, a while, the thicker the paint that I have on there, the better I can spread it with because I was using this. and in the beginning, when it's only a thin coat of paint on there, you see the wood again. So it's quite difficult with just this.
Yeah.
And so again, experimenting, figuring out which tools work best, and again how it reacts differently to paper, differently to canvas.
Yeah.
And so I've repainted these twice.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks later, this is kind of what happened. And then again, in the end, when I was completely finished with it, I said, it needs a little bobs. And so I put my little dried paint. And she lives.
So you are quite. I imagine you having a plan of what you want to do, and then
sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah, that's how I imagine it. I mean, you say in the red color you needed red.
Yeah.
On the canvas.
That's about as far as my planning goes.
That's what I want.
That's it.
That's what
the furthest my planning goes is what colors do you want to see? Like the other version of this in the pink. All that I knew is I wanted to mix these two pink colors that I had and create this like pink peach color. It's like a dusty rose, which I've always been obsessed with. Always, my whole life, I've always been obsessed with this color. In makeup, in fashion, I've always really loved this color. And so again, it was late, and I said, let's just paint the dusty rose. I mixed the paint, loved it, painted the whole background, and then I left it there for 2 or 3 days. And then I just started working on it again, and this happened again, and I was like, well, she looks like the other one's sister now. So let's make them sisters. And so I then purposefully made them match each other in a way that they could hang next to each other and be opposites. Yeah. Perfect. And so, I don't really have that much of a plan though. I just kind of like in the moment, just kind of like, wow, this looks like it'd be fun.
What I'm interested in is like, what kind of emotions are you in when you
usually
when you paint?
Curious.
Okay.
I'm usually in an explorative, experimental state. If I'm in a bad mood, I don't paint.
Okay.
And if I'm in too good of a mood, I probably work out or do something else because I just need to really, really calm down. But I think I'm usually in an explorative mood where I'm like...
So it's like you want to see new things, do new things, try new things.
Yeah. A lot of times, honestly, I'm really inspired by other artists. Like, I'll see a technique used by another artist and I'm like, ooh, that looks like fun. Well, they did it this way. What if I do it this way? Okay. I just kind of see what they did and see how I could put my own spin on that and maybe use their technique in a totally different way. Yeah. Or, just kind of again, it's all kind of playing with experimenting with paint. It's not that serious to me. Like there's no.
But that's the beautiful part. I mean, nothing should be that serious. I mean, it should be, but it also shouldn't be. So
not with art. I think art has to be like
a balance of.
Has to be like really free flowing and not forced. I think that's another part of what was frustrating me about fashion. It was that it was becoming. I need to have this done by. You have to have this story finished, and it has to be shot this way, and these brands have to be in it, and it now is all forced. And the freedom is gone. Okay. And that's, I think, what I was missing when I came back to paint is because slowly and slowly, when these things become your career, the creativity is slowly and slowly taken away. In the vein of making money. Yeah. And that is what I never wanted this to become. I always want this to stay just me making art. And if it sells, it sells. It doesn't, it doesn't. It is what it is. But this is not about a business. This has to stay about an outlet. Otherwise, it's not. There's no point.
Something for you to get out. Okay.
Exactly.
Wow, it was amazing.
Thank you.
It was amazing. I feel inspired today.
You're gonna go paint.
I'm going home. I'm gonna put canvas on the wall and then start with one color.
Nice.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for the introduction to your art, to your life, to who you are.
Thank you.
And I mean, I don't have to wish you success because I can imagine that you never will be successful. So
From your mouth.
so I wish you an awesome path throughout your whole life, and you'll be happy.
And you as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for watching this episode, and hopefully you'll be tuned in to the next episode. And it was like I'm amazed today now. So have a nice day, have a nice evening. Bye bye.